Good afternoon. Welcome to the Town of Darien Sewer Commission. We are going to start today with our public hearing agenda. And today is Tuesday, September 3rd, 2024. It is about 4:41 p.m. We're going to call the public hearing to order. I'm going to read the public notice associated with the public hearing. This is a legal notice that was published in the newspaper and posted to the town clerk, and it reads, notice of public hearing on proposed amendments to sanitary sewer regulations. The Town of Darien Sewer Commission will conduct a public hearing on Tuesday, September 3rd, 2024 at 4:30 p.m. in room 206 at Darien Town Hall for the purpose of affording property owners and residents within the Town of Darien an opportunity to be heard concerning proposed amendments to Darien Code Ordinance Appendix C and administrative regulations. Public participation is available in person or via email at dariensc@dariensct.gov. September 3rd, 2024. Section that we'll be considering is sewer user fees, Article 11, sanitary sewer regulations, Section 1000-6. Proposed subsection amendments in relevant part are 6-2.1, effective October 1, 2024. The standard charge shall be at a rate of up to $7.50 per 100 cubic feet of water, and 6-3.1, effective October 1, 2024. The minimum service charge shall be up to $291.42 per annum. All members of the public are invited to participate and be given an opportunity to be heard regarding proposed changes by order of the sewer commission. So we had heard a report from the superintendent at the last meeting about his projections for the budget extending over the next 12 months. And the revenue,
Yeah, absolutely.
And the revenue that needs to be generated in order to cover that budget. And he provided some options. I think one item that stood out to me from our review of this at the last meeting was that even if we didn't increase our budget, meaning Town of Darien's side of the sewer commission budget, by $1, the increases that we're facing from what we are required to pay the city of Stamford to treat our effluent is something like would be a 5.2% increase on its own. Because at the moment our share of the effluent treated at the wastewater treatment plant in Stamford is going up, and there are some one-time charges associated with capital improvements to the treatment plant that the city of Stamford decided not to bond, but to pay for out of pocket. With that as one of the primary explanations for why we're seeking a rate increase, I will open it up to public comment, because that's what we're here for. Unless Ed or Darren, you have anything to add?
I'm good. No, thank you.
So any members of the public who wish to speak on the sewer user fee? Yes, sir. Please come to the podium.
Thank you. My name is Rolf Oben. I reside at 9 Archer Lane. Was here last year, I think the year before that. I didn't want to disappoint you and not show up. So here I am. Thank you for the introduction about the background that's leading to this rate increase that's being discussed here today. First, I'd like to thank and congratulate both the Commission and the Public Works Department, Sewer Department, for continued service and infrastructure investment in the Darien sewer system. And there were a number of things that were accomplished this year that I think are noteworthy. Hardening the pump stations, execution of Arcadis Phase 2, and $1 million of ARPA funding, more than $1 million. So all good things. Rate adjustment of up to $7.50 per 100 cubic feet of water is a 6.5% increase in year over year from last year to this year. I did a little analysis of our own sewer history, and the 3-year average was 688 per 100 feet, and so we're going up quite a bit, up to 750. So if you look at that against a 3-year average, it's actually a 9% increase. So it's very substantial. This is probably the largest increase I've seen in quite some time, although we did have some larger increases in the past. We had one year we almost hit 8%. That was back in 2020. So we're in new territory, relatively speaking. But I certainly understand the background. I understand what happened with Stanford. I know Ed voiced his displeasure to them about how this was handled. I hope the commission echoed his feedback to them, because I think they deserve feedback about how they did handle it. So my comments about the monies that we're spending is, and this came up I think in the last meeting, about what reserves the commission is carrying, and also to keep in mind the fact that we now have some new developments coming online in the near future, and so we will be receiving sewer hookup fees, which I think should certainly help with our work, if you will, going forward. Some of the future improvements that certainly are on my mind, of course, moving into Arcadis Phase 3, and then there's been, I recall, a number of discussions about both the Nearwater and Stony Brook pump stations. I know they've been hardened, but I think there's still an interest to have them raised so that we can be in accordance with FEMA guidelines. So that's a project, and that's a pretty, I think, very substantial project, both in terms of logistics and money. So I hope that we're starting to plan something for that in the not too distant future. The last thing is also in the last few meetings, and more than actually the last few meetings, this has been the last few years, the subject that doesn't go away of I&I, inflow and infiltration. And I know you have this on the agenda for later on, but I think it's time now to really do something. I know you've been talking about it, and now I think it's really time to roll up the sleeves, go for what can be done now. Nothing is ever perfect, but get something started. I understand the affidavit concept. I think it's a good one, put people on record. But even that has a timeline to it of at least a year out, even if you were to start to execute that immediately. So you can't get started, in my mind, soon enough. And of course, we all know what the impact of what the I&I is on the water that we're sending to Stanford. So I think there are other considerations. I'm not going to go into them because in the interest of time, and also the fact that the I&I discussion is later on in the agenda, I don't want to divert from what the immediate question is. So those are my comments. I wish you all the best.
Thank you very much. Well researched and well informed. We are laser focused on trying to reduce the amount of water that we're sending to Stanford, with the hope that can have a real return on investment over the coming years. And our contract allows us to go as low as 12%. Right now, we're something around 15%. So it's roughly $600,000 worth of savings if we can get down to 12%. Thank you. Any other members of the public wishing to speak on the potential rate increase to our sewer user fees? Did we get any email correspondence, gentlemen?
No, sir.
Okay. Hearing none, I'll ask for a motion to close the public hearing. Second. All right, we got Susan to move and Reese to close. Any further discussion on the motion? All those in favor? All right, the public hearing is now concluded. We will move on to our regular meeting agenda. The first item on our regular meeting agenda is to approve the minutes from the last time we met, which was Tuesday, August 13th. Discussion was spirited.
I am sadly refused to miss the event.
You missed all the fun.
I remember it vividly. Well, you guys are reading, we should say thank you to Penny for all the,
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, thank you, Penny.
I stopped in there earlier just to say how much we're gonna miss her.
Is she still watching these things?
I hope not.
Please.
Especially
I hope you're not watching.
if you're walking by the lobby when it's on. Any comments or corrections to the minutes?
I'll make a motion to approve as written.
High praise. High praise. Any further discussion on the motion? All those in favor?
Who was second?
All those
Reese.
opposed? All
You
those
second?
abstaining?
Maybe,
401.
Or-
Reese is abstaining from the vote.
It's cute.
Should we just move on in order, I suppose?
Let's do the setting of the sewer district for us.
Okay.
4:51.
We have all these people
Okay, yeah.
here.
Or I'll put it, I'm gonna take item 3,
Yeah. Okay.
and push it down to between 7 and 8. Yeah, before we start talking about all
Oh,
the
yeah.
internal stuff. Which means we'll jump the agenda to item number 4, having to do with 3 Corndale.
4:52.
This is Nielsen, correct?
It's
Yes.
the office building.
It's the
the
medical office
building.
Well, it's Nielsen's and,
Yeah.
3 and 6, actually, which makes it more difficult.
Yes, there are 2 buildings on that parcel with 2 addresses. Gentlemen, you want to give us the rundown of why this is on the agenda?
Did
We-
we continue from this?
We had talked, I think, almost 2 meetings ago about this and getting information. I think Bob had asked for additional meter readings so that we look at what was going on. I think Penny has put that together on, well, it says 3R here, but it should be 4R, but that's the information that you had all requested, or, I'm sorry, Bob had requested.
You were curious about the fluctuation in billing, is that right?
Yeah, I mean, I was trying to find some rhyme or reason to it, to try and, because just throwing out an average there, I don't know if that really works. I mean, I guess it's close, but it's not.
But this is more of a kind of internal curiosity. This isn't like this wasn't an appeal or anything, right?
Yeah. This was,
It was brought to our attention, so I
Yeah.
thought it
It
was.
was an appeal, yes.
What happened was, Tony went to read the meter.
It wasn't appeal years ago.
No, Tony went to read the
Oh,
meter this year,
okay.
and the meter wasn't working.
Okay. Oh, we're trying to head off an appeal because
I
we're trying to
agree.
select a proper bill.
Yes,
Yes.
I believe that we were asked.
Before it goes out.
before it goes out.
We were kind of asked an appeal prior to the bill going out,
Yeah.
as, yeah, it's tough, because it's all over. I mean, the one thing, see, especially when Building 6 is included, that's why 2022 is so big. If you remember, they had an issue with the MRI machine, and they were using water to cool it, because their cooling equipment had some issues for a little while.
Right, they were going through a lot of.
That
Yes.
was more like 2022 probably.
Yeah, and did I say 2022? Sorry.
No.
And that's when they came to try and get an appeal, and Tony went out and dye tested, and the water that they were using was going into our system, so we denied the appeal. But I mean, basically, it's the number, let's see, it would be the third column over, the 5,000, the 1,400, 1,000, 39, 34 is 3,400 is,
That's the adjustment column.
yes, the adjustment
Yeah.
column is the one that we have to come up with a reasonable number for.
So their sub-meter is not functioning, is that's what, okay.
Correct.
And so we start at a baseline of this is how much water we use, and we have no idea how much irrigation water to deduct, because their meter was not working.
Yes, and the only thought I had was, since it's irrigation water, to, like I said, we could either average those 5 years and then come up with a number, or we could ask, and I just thought of it earlier today and didn't get a chance, but we could ask for the rainfall that year. Depends how deep we want to dive into this.
So
Because there's a big difference between 5,000 and 1,000. So, I mean,
the adjustment column is this, is the one that starts at 5,030 and 2020?
yes.
Yeah, because you could make a justification for it was raining last year, therefore it should be lower or higher, yeah. And what did the average come out to be for the 5 years?
I didn't do it, I would assume it's somewhere,
What's
in
that?
I would assume it's somewhere in the threes. Because you have 50, 14, 10, 39, 40, and 34. Yeah, I'd say it's somewhere about 33, I guess.
Has the meter been repaired this month? Do we know?
I don't know, I can't answer that right now.
Are they planning to repair? Or
I-
is it going to be an annual thing?
No, this is your one-shot deal.
Okay, so it'll be fixed by
It,
next year?
it should be fixed, or if not, it will be fixed, yes. They will be notified.
Just so we can write down what is our plan moving forward for these
Sure.
people, if they're not.
What do you excess out taken the other floor?
That's the actual, that's how much they're used, that's the bill, that's the ending bill. So this is the deduction for irrigation.
I get it.
That's the grade
Total cost.
total cost, and that would be the resultant bill, as I understand it.
Yeah, the third column is the adjustment, the fifth column would be the bill.
So 6269 minus 20.
So-
minus 29623. Yeah, interesting, you end up with a bill lower than it's been, which doesn't seem reasonable. And they need to take responsibility for their meter rate. What if we did half the average? So the average was about 2,986.23.
Okay.
If we did half the average, that means we're splitting the responsibility for the broken meter with them, even though it's their broken meter. 298, 623.
Why was splitting the responsibility with them?
Well, we could just say
For their-
zero. You get zero deduction for irrigation. We can make that decision.
So the final column here is this year's, or it says 2024, or was that last year?
I think it's last year's.
Okay, so we don't actually know the
That's how
numbers,
much.
the gross number, right?
No, because you wouldn't know the adjustment because there's no meter reading.
That's what I thought, but it said 2024, so I'm a little.
Why don't we
I
just
think we're doing 2025 this year.
Why don't we just get the average of the deduction, the
I don't
percentage?
think we'll do that now.
Craig's doing
The percentage?
it. Yeah.
How much is the irrigation?
Because the problem is, it also includes Building 6, which is Stanford Hospital, and it used to be Cantor Fitzgerald upstairs and dental thing. So that throws a wrench into the calculations. It's not as straightforward as just being the florist
Right.
and Michael Joseph's.
But it's always included both of those, so why would it be the same?
Well, because the 2020, like I said, the 2022 year is,
Well, take out
Hold on.
2022.
There's generally been
Throw
a
out-
44% reduction
For
in
the
their
irrigation?
user fee.
Is that
For
included?
And that's what you said, about 50%.
Yeah.
So
So you were
what's
spitballing 50.
$1,600? Who's this for?
Well, that would mean we would reduce their current bill by 44%. So the projection is that it should be 6269, 28 times 56 would be a bill of 35, 10, 80.
It's, but they don't actually have the gross, the 2024 was last year.
Oh,
We're just,
okay.
we're calculating what the,
What will be this?
Oh.
what the deduction is gonna be. We don't know the gross number yet. We haven't
Oh, so
been
the
given the
deduction
gross
you're
number.
saying-
They may know the gross number, but we haven't been informed of it.
That's why I was thinking if we did the last 5 years and throw out the high, do the last four, the normal, come up with a percent discount. Using the
Right.
full.
But that's what their irrigation.
I mean, I like the fact that Craig has figured out that 44%, but like I said, like, I agree with him, they should bear some of it. So I would say, we bear 15, or we bear 29, they bear 15%
Of what? Why are we bearing?
of.
No, I think we just come up with that number, and that's.
We don't bear
use.
any of it.
Well, you are bearing it by saying you're going to reduce your bill by 44%. You're saying we're
Because
guessing.
of the irrigation, which we've always
Yeah.
reduced it.
Yeah, I'm not
No,
saying
we
we're
have-
bearing responsibility for
Oh,
growth
okay.
either. I'm saying we're
But
trying to
we've
come up
always
with a
been-
fair number.
Right.
Right.
If we had 10 years data, Craig, would you be comfortable with a percent discount or with no meter?
No, I think we should have meter because that's our consistent policy across
Bill
properties.
teasing me.
Okay. Do I hear that there is, well, no, you're suggesting we go a little lower than 44% as a deduction?
Well, you're saying that that's the number right now. So we're absolving the whole thing. And they're not taking any responsibility for having checked the meter in a year's time.
Sure.
So that's why I'm saying.
And you were doing like a 2/3, 1/3 thing?
Yes.
So that'd be like a 32% discount?
No, that would be a 29% discount, 15%. 15% would be on them, and 29% would be the
2/3
discount.
of 44
Is
is
what
88 divided by 3.
So, can we just round that to 30?
Yeah.
So, okay, we'll ask for a motion if the answer to this question seems reasonable. Is there a consensus that we apply a 30% discount on their sewer user fee this year to estimate the amount of irrigation use that they were likely to have?
I will move that.
I'll second
Any further discussion on that? No, because we don't have.
We don't have the number, we
total
just wanted the
of this
percentage.
year's bill.
We're just looking for the percentage that will be irrigation
Okay.
of the future.
Gentlemen,
Bob?
Bob Phillips, Bill.
Gentlemen, do you understand the motion and are comfortable with executing the result?
Absolutely.
Okay.
It's a whole lot better than where I was going.
All those in favor? Okay.
Unanimous.
All right, item number 5, 16 Middlebrook Lane.
That's good.
Okay.
The station's government here.
I was wondering if people watching this.
They're gonna be quiz at the end.
Hello, everybody.
We got a little too short-handed.
My name is Ed Zimmerman. My company is Bradford Estates. It's a Darien-based company. I did both speculative and custom building in town for the last 25 years. And I'm currently retired now, but I have this one outstanding problem with the last job that I did in Darien. And I just wanted to explain that in all my years of building in this town, both speculatively and custom, this is the only time I've ever had an issue where I couldn't get a CO and I had to come in to talk to a commission. I think that we, bless you.
God bless you.
I feel that we did 25 years' worth of work by the book, by the code. I had a great reputation with both planning and zoning and the building department here all the years that I did it. And basically what went wrong with me here is, first of all, I never did in my career here any type of an auxiliary building. All my jobs were either a brand-new house or a full renovation and expansion on it. And those were always done, most of them were done with all septics, because most of my business was in northern Darien, in the 2-acre zoning area in my career. So I didn't have any experience, and I've never connected to a sewer. This was new for me. So the sub that I've been using for many years that did the job, he explained to me back at the time that the plumbing permit that the plumber took out for the half bath in this pavilion was going to be the permit that he was going to be working with him. where I found out later, when I went to get my CO, that ended up not being the case. He should have come down aside from the plumber and taken out a permit on his own for doing the sewer line. So that's where I went wrong, and that's where the project went wrong as far as ending up here with you. I did come in and met with Tony, with my plumber, and unfortunately, the site guy that I was using went AWOL on me, and he's gone because he doesn't want to be responsible for, and I'll explain why he thinks he's right and why he did what he did, but he's gone, and now I'm left having to look for, depending on what your decision is, I'll have to hire, someone new to come in to do whatever needs to be done. He doesn't have my back, unfortunately. So I came in, as I began to say, I met with Tony, brought my plumber in, and he has a bond, he has the insurance, he has everything that's needed to be done. So I am prepared to take out what would be a permit that should have been taken out now. I'm just waiting until I met with the commission, and he told me what he wanted me to do. So when we went to do so first of all, it's a seasonal bathroom. It's like a half bath in this pavilion. It's just a toilet and sink. There's no shower or anything. And it's only there for the months that the pool is open. So, and the pool has been used for 2 full seasons. And there's been no issues with the bathroom being used, the pool or anything. All I did there was just a pool in this pavilion next to it. So it's been working fine, everything is good, and I do feel that we did a really quality job, as I'll explain to you in a minute. I don't think it was done half-assed, excuse my language, but I think it was done really well. He went off of the Fairfield Engineering's site plan, and it stated right on that plan that I gave a copy of the site plan to the commission. It states that to use a Schedule 35 sewer line to connect the sewer. So that's in fact what we did. We found the original line that came out of the original house, but it was abandoned. We looked from inside, we dug to it, and it was abandoned. So we ended up hiring a camera crew to start at the street and go through the whole line, and we found that back years ago when I believe it was Fox Hill did the renovation and expansion on the house, they must have put a new sewer line in. And so we were able to find where it was outside with a camera, marked it, and then when we dug it out, we found that, and in the picture that I submitted to the commission, it shows that the line that we connected to is a Schedule 35, the same as what we connected to it. I was there every day, so I saw the excavation, I saw the pipe being put in, I saw it being put in properly, I saw the pipe before it was covered up, it was totally encapsulated with sand. All the big rocks and everything were taken out of the fill, and it was backfilled properly, and then top seeded, and then seeded. And as if you drove by the house to see today, it's like it never was done. The picture that I sent you also that shows the line in the open trench from where it came out of the pavilion to where we connected it to the pipe from the house. There's tons of pitch on this, way more than what code would require, because the pool and the pavilion is on the height of the house, and that's like on a plateau. And then if you go from the property towards Middlesex and towards the street, it's totally graded down. So just to keep it underground, it had a very, very aggressive pitch to it. So I know that it was way greater than anything that would have been mandated to have done. That's pretty much it. So we closed it all up, did it all, and then when I went to do my final CO, I found out that it couldn't be issued because the separate permit was not taken out by that. And the reason why it's also been as much of a delay, the homeowner initially said he was going to handle it. And I was like, oh, okay, that sounded good to me since I'm retiring. But then I guess he did a little bit of work on his own, and then he realized that he really needed me to come back in and straighten this all up. And then, depending on what your decisions are, he's going to need me to stand behind the job, which I've assured him that anything that needs to be done to make this right, that I'm there, and I will take care of it.
Well,
So,
go ahead.
so the last thing I'll just say is the only thing I'm looking for is for whatever rope you could possibly give me. It's going to be a financial burden to me to hire someone new to come in and do whatever has to be done. I feel that the job was done really well, high quality, and I was hoping that I wouldn't have to start all over again with the project.
Well, first of all, thank you for your presentation. You know, it's, intermittently, we have issues with contractors on jobs, and I would say it is more normal than not, unfortunately, for contractors to avoid us. But the fact that you came here, you gave us your report, and told us where the misstep was, I want to say I appreciate that, and I appreciate your cooperation with trying to get this resolved.
Of course.
Before I ask more specific questions, Ed or Darren, do you have anything to add to the story?
I think Mr. Zimmerman hit all the high points for you. I did have an opportunity to touch base with Tony and the building inspector that had notified Tony of the issues out there. And I don't know if Mr. Zimmerman knows that or not, but the contractor out there was put on notice while he was digging it, that it needed to be inspected by us, but obviously he didn't convey that to Mr. Zimmerman.
That's the first time I'm hearing that. Did you
Yeah.
say that an inspector came by the job, saw it being done, and they told him?
The building official was out there, and I guess your contractor had asked him to inspect it also, but that's not part, he doesn't do outside the building.
Gary was my inspector, and that's not part of his.
That's right.
menu policy.
And Gary had let Tony know that he did mention that he needed to make sure that he got that inspected by Tony, but obviously that fell through the cracks. But I guess the
It's
important
the first time
part,
I've ever heard that. I don't lie. That's the truth.
the important part is we have no sewer permit right now, which means we have no as-built. The sewer approval from the commission to do any outside connections outside your main house is generally paramount before we start that. Obviously, that didn't happen. There were no inspections, and the sewer pipe that's SDR is 4-inch that they use, which is not our standard, not approved. What he tied into is a 6-inch SDR, which is approved, which is why the two materials are the same, but once you go to a 4-inch, we don't allow that because of its.
Do we not allow a 4-inch period, or do we
No,
require Schedule 4?
you could do Schedule 4, you could do cast iron. Because of the flexibility of the SDR 35 4-inch, we do not allow it here in town.
So, one, I didn't get the pictures that you referenced, so if we
Yeah.
get into the record.
That was my fault.
Okay.
Sorry.
There's pictures, and there's also a site plan that shows exactly the line. Okay, you have that. Okay, great. Do you have the colored pictures that show the pipe and everything?
No, I have them.
Oh, okay.
I have them.
So
I can, what's the? I don't know if these are the same ones. This is the connection of our 4 to the 6. And this is the one with the pipe. You can see the grade is incredible. And that goes from, that's a picture showing it from down here. And this is just a picture of the pipe showing that's a 35. I can also see the building of the 4. My understanding was, which I don't have a lot of experience in the plumbing end of it, I thought that Schedule 40 was more for, like if you're putting a line under a driveway, let's say gravel, that would, it was close to the surface and you needed it for that kind of compaction. But when it's in sand and it's not in a yard where it's grass, not anybody's driving over it, that it wouldn't then need something that rigid.
Well, I think that's exactly the point. The rigidity is what we're after, so it stays at a consistent slope, right? And that if you go with something that's a little more flexible, you could end up with sags, which would be a maintenance issue over time.
And there's that much of a difference between 35 and 40?
I guess
Yeah,
enough for our
so-
Yeah,
standard
absolutely.
specs
Yeah.
to reflect that. So
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, thanks for that explanation.
I'm going to put aside for a second the pipe diameter or pipe type, depending on how you look at it.
Okay.
So, in the time that I've been on the board, when we've seen these kind of pool houses, pavilion houses, requesting their own connection
Right.
to the lateral, I can't think of one that we've denied. So it would be, I think, on a certain level, very reasonable of us to have allowed a connection if the process was properly followed. And then two, what we've done also with some consistency in some of these retroactive permitting scenarios is we, one, ask for a surveyed as-built, so you might have to dig up some points or some ends and get invert elevations at points and ends.
Run a camera with a geodesic.
I'm getting there. And get that on a real map.
Okay.
And two, we typically say video inspect the inside, right? If there's no sags or issues or gaps, it's basically inspecting the pipe from the inside.
Right.
So those are things that we have done in the past. I think the nit here is theoretically it's either supposed to be a 6-inch SDR 35 or a 4-inch Schedule 40. So given the slope, and it's clear even from the picture that it's a well-sloped line, and then from the topo on the sketch, it seems as though it would be a well-sloped line. If the as-built shows a greater than minimum slope, greater than average slope, and the video shows a high-quality installation with no sags, do you think it would be unreasonable for us to waive the size or schedule requirement?
I don't think it would be unreasonable. I just think it needs to be documented and put in the lateral file for the house, that the pipe is not of town standard or not an approved standard for this use, but basically what you just said, elevation
There's some mitigating
wise, slope wise,
circumstances.
yes. We felt that it videotape it, video inspection passed.
Yeah.
Those things will be noted and put in that file.
Yeah.
In case there's a future homeowner that wants to come in, they would know that we did catch it, we did look at it, but
And they
we
understand
felt it
what's
was
there.
adequate.
Yeah. So with that, oh yeah, Darren, you want to add something? I'm going to go to the
Previous
commissioners.
sewer commission has done just what you're suggesting one time in my time here.
It provided that waiver
It
based
was
on.
an SDR 35 pipe, and
Yeah.
it was retroactive, just once.
Okay. So with that, I'll open it up to commission members for questions and comments. Bob, starting with you.
Yes. What's connected to this? Just the toilet and sink? Not
Yes.
the pool?
No, it's just for the bathroom only, and that's seasonal, just when the pool's
Yeah,
open.
no, I was in the pool business for 18 years.
Oh, okay.
That's why I'm asking if the pool is in there,
No.
because the pool would be another 100 gallons a minute.
No,
So just that. So is there a cleanout?
yes, two. There's two cleanouts. There's one up where it's connecting to the pavilion itself, and then there's one on the lawn before where it connects to the main, yes.
Okay. So those would definitely need to be noted if, is
On
it
the
in there?
as-built.
On the
I'm
as-built,
looking
yeah.
at it, yeah. They would have to be noted on the as-built.
And you'd have to make sure that it's a TY, not a T. No disrespect, but you want it to be a TY so that if you were to put something down, it goes with the pipe, it doesn't come down and
Right,
90 into it.
We're
right.
talking about the
clean out.
The cleanouts.
Yes.
Yes.
Are you able to get into the line from the cleanouts with the camera, or do you have to actually start at the street or dig up a pipe
No,
and
you
cut
can-
it and put
you
it in?
can- I mean, again, well, what he said might hinder you, right? So
Yeah.
if you go to the one up by the pavilion and you put the camera down there, and it's a Y, and you'll be able to snake it right down the pipe
All the way
and check
down.
it out.
Yes.
Right? If it's a T, it's more of a pain to turn the corner.
Got it, okay.
Yeah.
I believe I have that.
It depends how far we want to take it. If you wanted the camera to go and you had to remove the toilet and put it down there so that you're
Yeah,
going from
yeah.
the beginning all the way to the road or not.
I think if we're up within a few feet of the house, that would be satisfactory to
I'm
me.
just
Yeah.
putting it out there. I'm not
Yeah.
making comment one way or the other.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I have,
Asked your questions.
I've asked my questions.
Okay. Peter, any questions? Or
No.
No, you covered everything.
Susan? Okay. All right, so it sounds like before we can I think, take action, we need more information.
Okay.
Which means that you'll have 4 weeks to go collect that information and come back to us.
Oh, okay.
And it sounded like the information is the video inspection of the line,
Okay.
and accurate as-built, both in horizontal location and vertical location of the
Understood.
line.
Got it. Do I need to do that with a survey company?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, I want to get it on the as-built survey.
Okay.
Some of the cameras have the geolocating on the camera, don't they?
Yeah, or even you can do, the depth is hard once you're in dirt,
Yeah.
you know, but it has the metal detector you
Right.
can get
Right.
and paint it out on the surface, yeah. So that you might be able to coordinate with
Surveyor and
the
the
company
camera.
that does the
Does it.
scoping with the
Yeah, I'll call the
surveyor.
same company we used to find the line initially, because
Yeah,
they're probably good
they
at
know
it.
the job.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
yeah, okay.
Craig, he has
Yes.
2 cleanouts too, so he may be able to measure down those to.
Oh, yeah, that you might be able to get some good invert information at the cleanouts.
Yeah.
If you can see the invert of the
Distance and
lateral,
all
yeah,
that. Exactly. I could shoot that with my transit, and then I can also do the same at the top.
Yeah, yeah, or you might have to dig, discrete locations up to get the elevations,
Sure.
Obviously, we want to have the information we need to be able to give you a decision. Any other information you think we need?
He needs a pull permit.
Oh, yes, before you do any of this.
Yeah, I promise you I'll come to get the permit. So I'll come with the plumber, get the permit first.
Yes,
And then I can proceed with the camera company and whatever digging I have to do.
yes.
And then I can get that done within a week, but you want me to wait till the next hearing date, which will be the next month, I guess, right?
Yeah,
Okay,
because
bring it into the department?
well,
Yeah,
do you feel comfortable with this direction? Observing the video and taking a look at the information you get and
As-built.
moving on?
I don't see why not. If anything
Okay.
comes up that I don't think staff can handle, we'll
Okay.
bring it to your attention. But as
Okay.
of right now, if he brings us the information that you've asked for and pull the permit to do all
And
that.
it looks good, and your
We'll look
inspectors
at it
think
and
it
make
looks
sure,
good?
but then it's gonna, all the documentation will go in the lateral file for the house.
Okay,
Is
so
that the
with that,
direction?
I guess I'll ask for a motion. Anyone want to put that together?
Okay, I move that we authorize Mr. Zimmerman?
Yes.
To have it inspected as you described for the pitch of the pipe and have it
Video
Okay,
scope?
survey.
scoped and surveyed and submitted to staff, and if staff is comfortable, then they can go ahead and approve it and close the permit, once
With-
he's gotten a permit,
And documented on
and
the,
documented on the, in the
File.
lateral file,
yeah, that we've allowed the waiver in pipe type.
that we have allowed the waiver of the pipe type.
Which is a unique circumstance.
Yeah, based on, yeah.
One quick question.
Yes, sir.
If I do some digging and I open things up, I should most likely leave it open and submit all the stuff, just in
Yeah.
case you want to come down and Tony wants, I think Tony had mentioned, like, he would want to come down and inspect it.
So what,
So-
yeah, what this motion is doing, which we haven't approved yet, is basically authorizing staff to make the final decision. So if you
Okay.
finish everything in a week and staff is happy in a week, then you're done in a week. You don't have to wait a month to come back to us. We're allowing staff to make the decision and defining his guide rails.
Right.
But yeah, I would think if you exposed any portion of the system before backfilling it, have that portion of the system inspected.
Yeah, don't do it again.
Yep.
Okay.
Okay, so we have a motion on the floor to.
And that's the, sorry,
Yep.
now that I think of it, now that I'm looking at the picture, that's the proper saddle clamp to use?
It's a glue fitting with a Fernco, probably.
It
It
is?
appeared to me to be yes.
Okay. I mean, is that something that
Some
we
of
should
those pictures
physically
go on to-
inspect to make sure that's the proper?
We normally do, but it's back.
You got the picture, put the
Yeah,
picture in the
we-
file.
We were, yeah.
I don't know, I'm just.
I worry about taking it up and
Yeah.
Well,
doing damage to it.
that's in the grass, is it not?
It's in a
Yeah.
grassed area.
I'm just,
Let me
I-
see what the video brings back.
Yeah.
If there's any clue that I should be having that exposed.
And Anthony has that picture.
that doesn't, that looks like a rubber fitting.
Yeah, it's a Fernco with a glue fitting on one side.
It's not it's not glued on there.
Well, Fernco would
It's a
be.
Fernco with a, it's a T, not a TY.
Okay.
I don't know plumbing, I mean, that's not, like I said, not the way I would do it. I would make a TY, but
It looked like a TY.
no, it's a T.
There's a T. It would-
It's
Oh, yeah,
a
yeah,
45 or a
yeah.
22 with a T.
Yeah.
I think it's a 45 twisted.
So
For
you
a-
should say it should be a TY with the glue fittings and then a Frenco up the line, further up?
I don't know as, yeah, I mean, yeah, but I don't know as this is the, I mean, if you look at it closer, if this is the proper way to do it or not.
Let me take a look at it closer.
Okay.
See what to do.
Like I said, I know the way I would do it. but
Yeah, I mean, if
that
we,
doesn't mean
if
I
he
know
needs
code.
to do a spot repair, if you determine that that's needed,
20
then he
minutes.
should
it's
do a
glue,
spot
even
repair.
though-
All right.
Okay, so let me summarize. Susan has made a motion to, and I'm going to paraphrase a little bit.
Go ahead.
I'm sorry, I thought of something there in the middle and screwed
Yeah,
it up.
Susan has made a motion to permit the connection of the accessory structure to the sewer lateral, and subject to
Permit.
a permit being issued and staff reviewing a visual inspection of the interior of the pipe and an as-built of the horizontal and vertical location of the pipe to permit the waiver of pipe material type from Schedule 40 to Schedule 35.
I'll second that.
Okay. So we have a first and second on the floor. Any further discussion on the motion? All those in favor, raise your hand.
Hold on.
Okay.
I have a quick question. Was the pool house on the
The
original
picture's gonna
plans
add the half of the
Yeah,
building.
with the bathroom? Wow.
It wasn't picked up
Yeah.
internally either.
Yeah.
I didn't, yeah, Gary, when all the other inspections, we never picked up on it, until the finally got there, and he goes, hey, by the way, did you get them in here to do that? And I said, no, Gary, I didn't, I thought I was all complete with you, and he said, no, you needed to do that. It was kind of missed a little bit from town and me, but it's ultimately my
Well, You're
mistake.
kind to come here and help the future owner. That's really cool.
Well, thank you so much, Christian, I think you've been very fair with me, thank you.
Yep, I
Good luck.
appreciate you coming.
Thank you.
Those are your copies of the
The
pictures.
truth shall set you free.
I don't even need them.
Oh, okay.
The truth.
Thank you.
Shouldn't have drank so much before the meeting.
That's how you live and learn.
All right, item number 6, 8 Outlook Drive.
Okay. This will be a short one, and we get on to the main presentation for tonight. We did a little bit more homework, got a chance to talk to Mr. Taccone. Our original notice went out in June for the connection of the sump pump at this location. Secondary notice went out July 29th. It was sent out certified mail, still no response. So that's where we stand right now with this issue.
Have we looked in the building department's file to see who the plumber was?
Sorry, I did not do that.
Do you have any recommended next steps?
I like my sump pump policy as number,
What a segue.
number 8. But I think we can go, I can ratchet it up just a little bit to maybe get their attention one last time
Okay.
on the third location, and then
Yeah, summer. This is true.
we can invite them in,
Okay.
maybe as part of that.
Well, you have our full support.
Okay.
Is that fair to say?
Absolutely.
Oh,
It's nice that the
Absolutely.
building department was.
Yes,
Really
thank you to the
helpful.
building
Thank you.
department for bringing it to our attention.
All right, with that, it looks like you folks are on to number 7, 54 Boston Post Road, Cloud 10 Car Wash, for their presentation. As Redness and Mead, a company I am part owner of, has been hired by the applicant and works for the applicant. I'm going to recuse myself from this matter and go take a break while you guys deal with it. Bob, the gavel is yours.
Oh, thank you.
The virtual gavel. Strongest one.
And Lindsay, are you still there?
Uh-oh.
Lindsay, did you fade
Oh,
away?
Lindsay, are you on the phone?
Yes, I'm still here.
Just for the record, Lindsay is with us.
Sure. Oh, yeah.
Thank you.
And Bob, just an FYI, that, just to take notes in case you want to, it's not additional information.
No, it's the same thing. I was gonna actually apologize, I'm gonna be the IKB person. I know, but, because I only got a chance to glance at this.
That's okay. I think I have one more order of business, so you folks do know. Planning and zoning has this room at 7 o'clock. FYI.
I'm bigger than there.
Which one?
If that's the stance you'd like to take, Bob, you're more than welcome to, but
Possession's
I want to give you a forewarning, okay?
Netter's pretty good size, and he's a lawyer. He used to
I
play
don't know.
hockey.
Possession's 9/10, we can just close those doors.
Okay.
Not in stature.
It's all
He
yours.
wants to go home.
You guys all set?
Yes.
I know.
Very good. Good afternoon.
Hello.
My name is Brian McMahon. I'm a licensed professional engineer and a principal with Rendison Mead. Here today on behalf of Cloud 10 Car Wash. I'm here with Melissa Lumpkin, project engineer of my office, Steve Sauce, director of operations for Cloud 10, as well as Jay Klein and Dan Chappell, land use attorneys for the applicant with Carmody, Torrance, Sandak, and Hennessy. I must say, I love that I can come to the commission and say good afternoon once in a while. This is great.
I love it too.
You could come every meeting.
And just as long as Ed had mentioned that planning and zoning has the room at 7, I will just point out that we do have a pending site plan application before the Planning and Zoning Commission. We were before them on July 16th, and we will be back before them next Tuesday, the 10th. So, first thing. So just a quick orientation of the site and the location. You can see the town line here on the east side of the site, Boston Post Road, off-ramp for northbound I-95, and you can see the now defunct Bertucci's Brick Oven Pizza building right in the middle, parking lot to the east, etc. This is an exhibit, real briefly, from the Arcadis study. And just to orient you, the site is all the way up here on the end. This is the overall Mechanic Street sewer shed in yellow. I will point out a couple of features in here. First, there is your Post Road East pump station is very conveniently located adjacent to our site at the southeast corner. And I will point out that the Mechanic Street flow meter is down on the bottom left here where I'm circling there. And more close up to the site, you can see the site here as I'm tracing it over. You can see the pump station here, just adjacent to the site. And essentially, the overall outer boundary here in blue, some purple, most of it in purple, and some of it in yellow here, is what represents the total portion of the Mechanic Street sewer shed that is tributary to the Post Road East pump station. There are 2 entry points here, and I'm just going to blow it up and see if I can.
Air controls.
So you can see there is an existing 8-inch main that comes through our site and connects from the north, and connects into the pump station here from your manhole number 1650, and there is another southerly connection into the pump station and the wet well connecting from your manhole 1775. You can see that the vast majority, I'm sorry about that. The vast majority of the overall area that I apologize. There we go. The large majority of the area is tributary through the northerly connection. That's the area outlined and shaded in purple. It is only the area shaded in yellow, which includes our site, that enters the wet well from the south. Those 4 properties are our site, 54 Boston Post Road, the Land Rover site, the little home and garden center, I think it's Darien Home Center, immediately to the west of us, and then the small judo studio next to that.
Oh, that's connected to that too?
It is. There is, and I won't blow it up again because I'll regret it. But
That's
there is
fine. No, no.
this.
I can picture it in my head. You don't need, I don't see it on there, that's all. That's
Yeah,
why I'm asking.
it's right here where I've got this blue dot here. It's a small site, but it is connected. And this yellow line that traces across the back of our site and into your pump station is an existing 8-inch main easemented across and serves those 4 property. Interestingly, and I had been involved with the development of the Mini dealership site years ago, and that site is the one property on the south side of the Post Road that connects through the out into the Post Road and through the northerly connection point into the wet well.
And we have all the right-of-way paperwork for that area?
Right-of-way paperwork?
Not
Easement.
right-of-way, easement, sorry, wrong term.
Easement
Or
paperwork.
is this private?
Is it a lateral or part of our sewer?
We haven't dove into ownership of and easements in the back, and I only think maybe the applicant could answer that right now, because I haven't looked at the easements, but there are some that come along the rear property line of Bertucci's. I don't know the extent all the way up.
Okay.
Yeah, certainly we did a survey of the site, which you'll see in a second. We did not do surveys of the surrounding sites, but based on what I have seen, there is an existing easement that runs along the back edge of our site and is intended to grant rights, I believe, of all these 4 properties into the pump station. So this is our existing conditions survey as the site stands today. You can see the existing restaurant building, driveways and parking areas all around. This blue line here is coming in from the back. It continues past our site over to the west, just incidentally. But it comes around our site to the south of your pump station. You can see this line, the blue line that I'm tracing here is that northerly connection into your pump station, and actually this second blue line along the back with the arrow pointing back out to the Post Road is a 6-inch force main from your pump station out into the Post Road, which if I can just go back one slide.
Brian, when does that go to gravity from force?
Right at about Birch Road. I was just going to illustrate that for you.
We had repair work there, Birch Road, like 5 years ago, right?
It was longer than that. I think it was closer to 6, 7 years. It's been a little over 10 years.
It's an emergency repair.
Yes, it was longer than 5, you're right.
Yeah, you can see it on this exhibit here. It's the dashed black line that comes out all the way down here and connects into your gravity system right here, right near the intersection of Birch Road. I am going to hear it from Melissa tomorrow, I got to tell you, for screwing this up.
No, it's hard being older.
It is hard being older.
Suffering from that.
I usually have my youngest daughter here to help me with the IT stuff. So this is the proposed site plan here. And what is being proposed is a single curb cut out at the road, and as you can see, a circulation pattern around the site with the car wash tunnel here. I won't get too far into the design of the site itself, except to say that we do have a recycling system proposed here. And you can see some tanks out in the front here of the you can see some tanks out in the front of the proposed car wash here, and a grease trap, which is going to have to comply with Connecticut Deep Standards, of course, out there. And if the commission does have any questions about the recycling system, we have Steve here who knows everything and anything about it. But I will say that we are proposing to connect into the same location as where the existing pipe is coming in. This back to the existing survey here. This orange line here is where we have found the existing connection into the 8-inch main that goes into the pump station. And it wasn't that easy to confirm that. Some of the information, because it is old, it was put in a long time ago, some of the information on file, plus some of our observations in the field were challenging. But what we did do is we engaged a subsurface investigator. They came out. They pumped out the grease trap. They pumped out another manhole, I believe, within the easement and perhaps within the enclosure of the pump station. But the point being that it was downstream of the existing grease trap. And we have confirmed, because there was some indecision, there was some confusion about whether the existing restaurant building has connected in from the south to the pump station or down from the north. And we have confirmed through the subsurface investigation that it has indeed connected in from the south. One thing and I mentioned the pumping out the structures, I will say that there was a significant accumulation of fats, oil, and grease in the grease trap, as well as downstream of there. And I think that's important because one of the things we'd like to point out to the commission is that one of the benefits of this project is getting rid of the restaurant use and getting rid of the issues relating to fog, fats, oil, and greases that come along with the restaurant use. So here's the proposed site plan again, and yes, we are proposing to connect in essentially the same location into the 8-inch main here. Again, Steve, if you have any questions on the recycling system, Steve would be happy to answer them. So what are the study objectives? Simply put, it is to analyze the capacity of the existing receiving mains that you have there, the gravity mains that you have there, to make sure that it has adequate capacity to take our project on. Second, we wanted to assess potential impacts to the lift station itself. And finally, we want to assess the potential for impacts for points downstream of the Post Road East pump station. I am aware that you have realized SSOs in this sewer shed on the lower reaches of it. And so in doing so, I just wanted to point out that some of the regulatory and technical requirements that we expect this to abide by. The CMOM, or the Capacity Management Operation and Maintenance Manual, TR16, the Technical Bulletin, and of course, as I mentioned earlier, the Connecticut Deep MIU-GP, which is the Miscellaneous Industrial Use General Permit of the Connecticut Department of Energy and Environmental Protection. This project will have to register under that general permit prior to construction. Generally speaking, the registration request is filed somewhere during the building permit process or perhaps just before. But we're required to have that registration before construction can begin.
Is that because of the amount of water you're using?
No, it's the type of water we're using. And I have a copy of the permit here, but it covers a wide range of quote-unquote miscellaneous industrial uses, but one of them is what they term vehicle maintenance wastewater, excuse me, and that's what they classify commercial car washes.
So they're worried about what's leaving the site?
Yeah. Well, I mean, they're rightfully concerned. They want it controlled and regulated. So and this is their mechanism to do that. So there are standards in here that we will have to abide by, and reporting conditions that going forward after construction that will have to be
So an
documented.
auto shop, a tire change center, a lot of things like that might have those same requirements?
Correct.
Based on the use?
Correct.
Okay.
And so, just to be clear, this project, we intend to, and this project will comply with any and all standards. TR16, CMOM, the Stanford, because Stanford treats your wastewater, any applicable requirements from them, and of course, the requirements of the Connecticut DEP registration. So, site flows. So when we were assessing existing overall site flows, wastewater flows just from the site, we looked at the existing conditions for Bertucci's Restaurant. And what we got was actual water consumption data from Aquarium, and have come up with an average daily flow for Bertucci's when it was operational. And I would point out that we used the years of 2018 to 2019 pre-COVID, which would have affected obviously the flows. And we came up with an average daily flow of 4,200 gallons per day. We applied a peaking factor of 5.6 to get 0.0364 cubic feet per second. I will just briefly mention that because the overall flow in the sewer shed that we're talking about here is low enough, we are required to use a higher peaking factor, actually the highest peaking factor recommended by TR16, and it's actually the final, this is my analysis, our analysis, and this is the final page on it. It's that graph in the back, and so that's where we got the 5.6.
So is that the size of the sewer shed that drives that?
It's the flow within the sewer shed. The lower the flow, the higher the peak.
And that's the sub-sewer shed, the Mechanic Street sub-sewer shed?
Correct.
Okay.
And so under proposed conditions, what we have done is we also have water consumption records. We have water consumption records from 5 or 6 existing operational Cloud 10 car wash facilities. None, this will be the first in the state, but these are all, mostly are all in Pennsylvania. And so we looked at all the data there, and we have decided what we believe is a conservative design flow on a per car washed basis is 40 gallons per day based on the water consumption data that we got on these other operational
Yeah, I mean, I'm confused. If you're recycling, how are you using 40 gallons per car per not per day, but per car?
Well, this is water consumption data from the same car washes. I think that the recycling is baked into that. They are drawing this much water. They are washing these many cars during that time. And some of them, some outliers were much higher, some outliers were much lower, but the bulk of the data suggests it was in a range that we chose 40 gallons per day for that. That includes, I would just point out that the 40 gallons per day that we chose to use includes not only the car wash wastewater, but it also includes, we also have, and it's enumerated here, right here, there's also an employee bathroom, which it's only for employees, and there's only 5 employees, so it doesn't generate that much wastewater, but they do have 2 laundry washing machines on site and do up to 12 loads a day, which we've estimated here. The 40 gallons per day from the Pennsylvania data that we got included that in. We decided to be conservative, that we were going to assume, for the sake of this analysis, that all 40 gallons per day that we're using make it into your sewer. And on top of that, then, we added in calculation and flow for the bathroom and the 2 laundry washing machines onto it. And it just in the interest of, to be conservative for the analysis.
I understand. I'm still confused, though, if you're recycling, how you're using that much water.
Well,
Sorry, I'm...
When we get to it, I think Steve can better explain than I can the more of the mechanics of the recycling system itself, and when they're drawing water, and when the water in the recycling system is clean enough to bring it back and wash the cars, and when it is not clean enough and that it gets discharged to your sewer. But he can better explain that perhaps once we get through the presentation.
Sure.
Okay.
I'm
Well,
just,
can I follow up on that?
Of course.
So if you weren't washing 250 cars, you were only washing 10 cars for some reason, would the gallons per day per car go up because you're not recycling as much? I'm confused, like, as is Bob, on if you're recycling it, where does the 40, how are you getting 40 gallons per day?
We are getting the 40 gallons per day strictly
Per
off of-
car. Right.
Per car.
How are you getting the measurement is what I'm asking.
Historical data. from
It's just, it's strictly off
On
of.
how much of it gets recycled and reused, so it's kind of an average of 40 gallons per car?
No, this is real data. This is real data from the operation, you know,
How much
other
they have to
facilities.
buy.
Okay, you can go on and then we'll wait for Mr.
That's how much water they buy per car.
That's how much water you're buying per car?
Yeah, I mean, they're consuming, they are consuming, that's how the
Okay.
data was presented. So they are consuming this much water, 40 gallons per car washed over a certain period of time, which is why we chose that.
Inclusive of the recycling of the
Correct.
water? Okay.
So Brian, let me see if I can help.
Yes.
It takes more than 40 gallons to wash the car.
Right. That was my
Okay,
question.
It
but-
takes 40 gallons
but-
of new water to wash.
It takes only 40 gallons of new water because they recycle it and use it. So it takes more than 40 to wash the one car. But the hard data is water in, water out, how many vehicles? They bought X amount of gallons, they washed so many cars, 40 gallons per vehicle.
On average, with all the different developments they've got. Okay.
Thank you. So we added to that, as I mentioned, the flow for the bathroom, the washing machines at 12 loads per day, 6 loads per machine, 2 washing machines, 12 loads per day. And we got an average daily flow of 10,472. And that results in a peak flow using the peak factor of 0.0907 CFS. And just to point out the obvious, it represents an increase in average daily flow between the restaurant use and the car wash use of 6,272 gallons per day. And the peak flow increase then would be 0.054. So the south study point, which is those 4 properties including our site, Land Rover, our site, the Strip Center, and the Judo Studio. The existing off-site flow is these 3 commercial properties. We got anonymized data from Darren for this, and it represents 941 gallons per day, and which is, as you can see, 0.0015 CFS with a peaking factor of 5.6. The proposed site flow is the average daily flow that we had here, which is the peak flow. The total peak flow in the sewer shed then is 0.099. What we did attempt to do, we discussed it with staff about estimating reasonably what potential future flow might be within the sewer shed. And we wound up, in order to get there, we wound up sitting with Jeremy Ginsburg, the town planner, having a conversation with him that under the current zoning, what may reasonably be expected to be redeveloped in the future. And what we came up with, and it was it was arbitrary, but what we came up with, we looked at the strip center immediately adjacent to the west of us on our side of the site within these 4 properties, and did a basic calculation about what current zoning would allow in terms of a mixed-use development, ground level commercial, and apartments above. And we came up with a potential for 8 residential apartment units on that site, just arbitrarily. And so we've added that in and had a total average daily flow of 15,013 gallons per day and a peak flow of 0.13 CFS to the south study point, the southerly entry point into the wet well. So I&I calculations, and this comes from the measurements provided in the Arcadis report there, and we based it, our calculation based it on a per length of pipe weighted. So you can imagine that looking at the amount of area that's coming in from the north, much more of the flow is coming from there. There's much more inflow and infiltration because of the length of pipe within that section. There's relatively little coming in through this south side, but in the end, it's all getting to the wet well, and that's what, that's what you're pumping. You're pumping a lot of clean water during storms.
It's an interesting way to slice the onion there.
Let's see, so the peak dry weather flow, 157.85, nighttime infiltration, the peak infiltration rate, 40 gallons per day, stormwater inflow and infiltration total to the south study point, we had calculated to be 7,306 gallons per day. Pipe capacity in the south entry point. So with an existing flow, and these are peaks here, peak flows here, plus the proposed flow and the proposed and potential future flow, what we have done, including inflow and infiltration from the south pipe, we have come up with that it is, even with a peak factor of 5.6, as well as the I&I in the pipe, it's only, and all of the proposed and potential future flow, it is only reaching percent capacity of 23.7%. There is, and that makes sense because there's only these 4 properties going through that pipe. And the other 3 properties are low intensity usage. And this just illustrates that fact. So you've got, on the bottom, you've got groundwater infiltration, then you've got the existing sewer use, that is the peak for Bertucci's, then you've got the proposed increase from Cloud 10, which is the next layer, then this thin layer is the rainfall intrusion, and finally, potential future connections here. And it totals, it leaves about 76.3% available capacity.
And that's the pipe capacity, not the pump capacity?
That's
in
the
wet
pipe,
well?
that's the gravity pipe capacity.
Okay.
So the north study point, and I'll just go through this quickly because we are not changing that northerly pipe, even though it carries most of the flow to the pump station. We are not changing that. We are not increasing any flow to it. But there's 68 residences, 11 commercial properties, an average daily flow of 36,841, peak flow of 0.32. You can see the peak infiltration of groundwater is 46,036. And the peak inflow of stormwater inflow is 63,996 for a total I&I of this, 110,032 gallons per day. And what we have come up with is that the total existing flow for all the residences up on the north side behind the commercial properties on Post Road, as well as those 11 or so commercial properties on the Post Road on the north side. It's occupying almost 70% of the pipe capacity of the northerly 8-inch main coming into the pump station. And that won't change. So the pump station analysis. So what we did here is if by applying a peak factor of such a high peak factor of 5.6, and by doing so across the entire contributory area to the pump station, adding in I&I, which is significant here, we were coming up with a number that exceeded the discharge rates of the pumps. And obviously that's not happening. Arcadis has been out here, they have inspected the Post Road East pump station. They have determined they have not found any problems with it. I'm not aware of any overflows. Clearly the inflow is not exceeding the ability of the pumps to discharge the flow. So we took another look at it and we said, well, can we calculate an actual peak factor? And using the flow meter data that they have all the way down at the bottom of the Mechanic Street sewer shed for that 3-month period in 2020, March through May, I believe it was. And we calculated, we looked at what the average flow over that time span was. And then the sort of the snapshot peak flow, maximum flow during that. And we used that and came up with a 2.1 peak, an actual peak factor from that.
That's exclusive of any flows from your site, right? The restaurant was offline.
The restaurant was offline. But I would say that you are correct. But
So
I would say that compared to in the overall flows that we're
It's
talking
small
about,
percentage,
it would have little impact, I believe, on the peak factor.
Yeah.
So the discharge rate, we used a drawdown test. We met DPW staff out at the, Melissa and I did, out at the pump station, and we actually did a drawdown test to see how fast it was coming in, timed it, how much it came up, and then tested it both with, in both conditions with one pump on and let it fill up again, and then did it with both pumps. And what we found was in that field test is that with one pump, it was discharging 156 gallons per minute, and then with two pumps, it was discharging 189 gallons per minute. So the tributary flow was calculated using a peak factor of 2.1. This was the average flow, and basically what it allowed for was a peak tributary flow of 157 gallons per minute. And what that effectively says is, using a peak factor of 2.1, it would just meet the needs for a one pump to discharge it. And a little bit of anecdotal data here. We decided to contact Darren the other day and see how this pump behaved in the storm we had on the 18th a couple of weeks ago. Got about 5 inches of rainfall. And so we got the run times, and the run times you can see ramp up dramatically during the storm, but they peaked at around 46 minutes. So during the height of the storm, the pump was on for 46 minutes out of each hour. But I will say that at no point did both pumps kick on for that storm. So it was handled by alternating by one pump and only one pump.
Question. Is the differential there between one pump and two pump small in your opinion? That looks kind of small.
Is that limited by the discharge, size of the discharge?
I'm sure.
Yeah, it is, and certainly you wouldn't expect it to be double, obviously. That wouldn't.
No, I wouldn't expect it to be double, but I would expect it to be more than, what's that, like 20%?
33, yeah, 33
20%.
gallons per minute. Yeah, I mean, we did think about that in the field. It could be, there may be some, we were measuring from up on top of the wet well. There's 3 of us out there measuring it, so there's probably some minor inaccuracies in that.
No, but that 20% increase seems kind of small. That's all I'm wondering. It's not necessarily on you, just I'm wondering if it's something we should look at, that's all.
And Bob, just to let you know, we are looking at one of those pumps over there right now to replace it.
Yeah.
So that may be.
Oh, so when you did the one
Drops
pump, you always used one of the pumps to do the one, you didn't do the one pump with both pumps?
You didn't step?
No, we only did it with one pump. So we
Okay.
only turned one pump on at.
No, you understand, you didn't test the drawdown capacity of each pump
That's
separately?
correct. That is correct.
Okay.
That is correct. And actually, we became aware, this was some months ago that we made this test, we did become aware after that test that one of the pumps, is in need of a repair or replacement, so.
Okay.
So really, summary, we think the calculations that we put forth here are conservative and demonstrate that there is capacity in the system and the pump station for the proposed development. We think that the ongoing I&I rehabilitation projects will have a significant positive impact by reducing system flow and increasing available capacity in the system. The removal of restaurant use and associated fog considerations will reduce potential for impacts to the town. And here's something that's real simple, but I think is really germane and important to this. When at the times when your sewer infrastructure is most vulnerable to sewer overflows is the time when this car wash is least likely to be washing any cars. And then finally, the project will be subject to the requirements I mentioned earlier, including registration under the Connecticut Deep General Permit.
As long as we can see.
And I'd be happy to try and answer any questions.
I thought you said you were going to address where the choke point is in the SSOs we've had and the impact of this on that.
Well, I think that, I don't think that there's going to be, the discharge rates are what they are. That the pumps aren't going to discharge more, notwithstanding the fact that one is going to be replaced in the near future. But they're not going to discharge any more after we're done than before we're done. The pumps are what they are. So we think, and the SSOs are very far removed and downstream of the subject property and even the connection point at Birch Road. So we don't think, we did speak to this, with this with staff and with Lindsay, but we don't think that there's going to be any measurable, perceptible impacts on the SSOs.
But while the pump can only pump so much, if you're saying it only runs 45 minutes an hour, if you're putting more flow into it, it could run longer. So yes, there could be more water at the SSO point, correct?
There could be more, theoretically, yes, you are correct. There could be more water at it. I would suggest that the amount of additional flow that we're putting into the system, one, at 6,272 gallons per day across the entire sewer shed, and especially so far removed from the SSOs that you're talking about, I don't think there will be perceptible impacts there. Okay. And two, I think it bears repeating, when it's raining like crazy and you're having these sewer overflows, they're not washing cars on the site. Nobody's getting their car washed.
Agreed. I'm just asking the question because they want to know.
Got it.
I think that's your strongest argument at the time.
And if I can take it a little bit further, back to you're going to reduce and eliminate fog contaminants. The restaurants will be open during heavy flow, during rainfall. They keep going. People still go to the restaurants. They don't go get their car washed.
You had an interesting table here in your other, I think it's your cloud. It's the first, and it's page 6 of some of the sub-contributors in the sewer shed. Different roads, and you had gallons per day from different areas. It's probably the north line, correct? Into the.
I'm just going to see if I
can
make sure I'm looking at the.
Oh, the original one.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is the northern study point.
So that you're not even going to use that pipe. But I'm just curious. Just jumped at me. Point O' Woods Road North, or Point O' Woods Road, per house had such a high gallons per day, 459 per structure. More than anything, it just jumped out at me, and I know you're not analyzing any of that. It's not even.
We are, and you're right. It goes to the northerly property line, but that is, again, that is strictly the anonymous data that we got.
Yeah, sure. I got. But you're also the extrapolation of INI per inch per pipe. I would argue that in some areas it's more likely than others, and the wetland low-lying properties would be more susceptible. Then I know you have a stream not far from you, and if you had a 12-foot basement and sump pumps, maybe they'd end up in the wrong place, and that would be an issue for us. But typically, the new builds don't have the issues we've seen in some of the older homes hooking up into the sewers illegally, and that is something we're addressing later. Just like 10,000 foot. Is there any other way you could treat the water than a sewer on site? I noticed you had a large Caltech system for your drainage in the parking lots. I'm just guessing. Is there any way DEEP would allow surface treatment of water at all?
Of the
some of the
car wash wastewater?
Yeah, that's. I get you. You're right.
Would have to be.
I don't think.
It'd probably have to be a package plan.
I see what you're saying. Yeah.
If you read through the Velocity Water Works letter, I don't know, car wash effluent estimates, you read this?
No.
Oh my gosh, the stuff that comes off of a car is pretty
It's the road.
amazing. It's amazing. Some of it is fog, not certainly like a restaurant. But actually, I don't know if we're getting a presentation from Cloud 10, but that one of my questions was going to be, this is a very sophisticated system, and what's the maintenance? How often is it maintained?
Well, are
Who
you,
does it?
are you finished, and then we'll just completely?
I was,
switch over
unless
to
you have any
fire?
other questions of me, I had nothing
The
further.
peaking factor table, and we had this before, we came out with a 4.2, I think, in one of the others where it was a larger sewer shed. So that's just belt and suspenders, you're really looking at it, because it's so small, using the 5.6, which is the highest peaking factor.
It is,
Okay.
and it makes sense, though. The smaller the area, the smaller the flow, the more you have to add a peaking factor. The larger the area, it gets diluted, and you can afford to have
By
a
different
smaller.
uses, by different time.
Exactly,
I mean,
exactly.
should we start thinking about, like parking was always a time element, in terms of, we sat on planning and zoning and other things, and the wetlands board where flooding was an issue as well. And time seemed to play such a huge thing, and that's the crux of your argument to me, is that you're not washing a car when you guys have problems with your sewer.
Yeah.
And therefore, you probably will be contributing near zero to any issues that we might have in our system.
Overflows.
So not only do we have to look at all the math and the peaking factors and the total volume, but time
Yeah.
is one of the most important things that you would be presenting to us, that, hey, you've nothing to worry about. Nobody washes a car when it rains.
Right.
And that's when you have huge problems with I&I.
Right. And which, you know, this is, as I understand it, this area is scheduled in phase 3, which if I'm not mistaken, is supposed to be in 2025, or,
As soon as we can.
so.
Yeah.
It'll be a different conversation after that, I think.
Let's hope so.
Yeah.
Yeah, no
Uh,
problem.
I thought of one thing. Parking lot, storm drains.
Yep.
Do they go in the storm drain, or do they go into the wastewater?
Oh, no, they go in the storm drain. The parking lot's drained through, and if you can.
But do you have like a tarmac where the cars pull out to? Because they're still dripping the stuff from the
No,
car
they,
wash.
I mean, they come out of the tunnel onto the paved drive and parking area. They might choose to just leave from there, or they could choose to go into one of the, you know, vacuum stalls.
Hopefully they're clean.
Yeah,
No, I'm just asking if you've loosened the stuff up and it's, some of it's
think
still
there's an oil
dripping,
grit separator.
dripping off.
there is
It's
a
my fault.
stormwater oil grit separator. There is a detention system and a retention system
Oh,
on the
for the
site.
stormwater, okay.
For the stormwater.
All right.
And all of the drains are equipped, as most are today, with deep sumps and outlet traps on
Okay,
them.
sometimes I get off target, sorry.
No worries.
The best time.
I'm satisfied with his presentation,
Thanks.
but we would like to
I'd like to hear about the
Yeah,
maintenance.
it's the fun
speak
stuff.
to.
Okay. Thank you, Brian. That was the most comprehensive sewer discussion I've ever had in my career.
Well, we're
And I
working on it.
Thank Redness and Mead, Melissa and Brian for doing a lot of work. It's very technical. So, my name is Stephen Sauce. I am the ops guy for Cloud 10. And thank you for taking the time to hear us today. So, do we reclaim water? Yes. We do a lot of things with the water that we take in and reuse. The system is charged up by cars coming through and using water. We don't use reclaimed water where it's not supposed to be. We don't use fresh water where it shouldn't be used, and we don't use polished water, none of those things. And to give you a high-level view, we have multiple types of water that we use. So we take fresh water in, we treat our water, we get it soft. So we send it through a softener. Everybody knows what water softener is. We add our salt, we get it soft. Then we take our water and we get it into our system. We have reclaimed tanks outside, which Brian noted. Those are sediment tanks. So if you want to talk about how bad a restaurant is, we don't wait until it's too late to clean our tanks to talk about maintenance. They are cleaned annually. We do stick them on a regular basis and inspect them to make sure that they're not getting full. All of that stuff that you're worried about dragging outside, most of it ends up in our tanks. Those are settling tanks. They're 2,000 gallons. They have a single baffle, manhole on each side. We like cleaning them out.
I'm familiar with settling tanks.
That's part of our environmental responsibility, is to keep all that crap off the road. That's another technical term, just so I be sure. But what we do is more comprehensive than maybe what you're used to or you've heard about, and I know you read the letter from Velocity Water Systems. That's just one component system of what we do. I have a site in Pennsylvania that I developed that has a very robust system. So we soften our water, we create spot-free water, and back in the days, which wasn't very many days ago, just years ago, that water, you take 2 gallons in, you create reject and spot-free water. That reject water used to go right where they didn't want it. Boom, right into the pipes. Not anymore. We keep all that water and reuse it. We can use it in chemistry, wheel cleaning, underbody, getting all that stuff off the car that's stuck on the car. We get it all off the car. We polish our water. Why do we polish water? Because I just heard the rates are going up. So I want to take as much water as I can and use it in the places that we can use it. So we've been developing and working with companies to take the water that's clean. We don't make it drinkable, but we make it good enough for everything else that happens in the tunnel. So fresh water is barely used in the first 60, 70 feet of a conveyor in our car washes. It's only really used at the end, which is where you have some product that goes on the car, makes it shine better, helps it rinse and do all of those other things. You're worried about drag out? We blow off the water that we can get off a car, but we do have about a 6 to 7 gallon drag out. It doesn't matter where you go, that's just the average. Cars are just gonna drip, but we have a drive out area and most of that doesn't end up out on the street. Almost all of it ends up on our property, gets into the stormwater system, but it's clean water. So we're using all of these different waters. We measure gate times, how long something's going to be working while it's on the car. We use sonar to see how tall a car is. We use a laser to see how long a car is. And we use all types of timing components with our AI systems to only use stuff on the cars while it's being washed, because everything costs money. As far as maintenance goes, it's usually a daily thing if we're somewhat busy, but it turns into typically a weekly thing. We do have a small sand filter. We have to pull out membranes every now and then and do it, but it really depends on which component it is that needs to be serviced over time. Because some things are good for 50,000 cars, 5,000 cars, or 25,000 cars. And we do have maintenance checklists for everything that we do. So it's comprehensive, but it really is simple. The sand filter on a pool is similar to stuff that we use in our sand filter and our reclaim. It's just one level of cleaning. We just go 4 or 5 levels above that. And we try to use as much water as we can. You were asking about gallons, and I thank you for that. It takes 90-ish gallons to wash a car, typically. In a conveyor car wash, it could take 82 to over 120, depending on how long the conveyor is, how long the car is in the wash process. Most operators in Connecticut aren't even close to 40 gallons per car. There's very few. I could probably count them all on one hand. So the technology has been catching up. Operators like us are pushing them to develop more so that we can do the things that we want to do. It is about an environmental responsibility. We don't say that just to say it. We understand that water matters. And the other thing we're trying to do is to get people out of their driveways. Not so we just make more money. I grew up washing my car in my driveway, and then I learned that I should be washing my car on my lawn to let it at least filter through. And then I really saw what was happening 25 years ago with effluents through a water study that started up in Canada and came all the way down to the Chesapeake Bay. And I was like, wow, that's pretty wild, what happens to water. So we've been on a little bit of a mission to do it differently. I don't know if that answered all your questions.
So my next question is, Ed, do we need to add anything to our fog regulation that would encompass watching over their settling tanks?
There is nothing in the fog ordinance right now to address that. If that's something that you folks would like to discuss and get more information about, I'm sure that's another topic for another day, but an important topic that we shouldn't let go.
Okay.
To see if that's been done any other places, and should it be done here?
Right, okay. You sound great, but say you leave and somebody else comes in and they're a little less reputable. You heard about all the grease that they found in the sewer line. I just want to make sure we're...
Understood. We're going to build a system that if I
Right.
leave, it's still going to operate for at least a couple of decades.
Okay.
So,
Thanks. Now, I thought this was fascinating. I hadn't even thought about all the stuff that comes off of a car.
the good news is when we pump our tanks, so we do all chain of custody stuff. 15 years ago, we have our own, we pump out our own tanks to let the water go into the gardens and stuff like that. We all stopped doing that.
Mm-hmm.
So nowadays, we bring in a truck, get everything sucked out, sign off. They take all the solids with them, take them to a place where they can dump them, burn them, let them dry out, do whatever they're going to do. But I can say that we've never had an issue wherever we've been.
Okay,
So,
thank you.
Okay, do we have any regs on total suspended solids, biological oxygen demand, or pH?
It was part of the materials.
We do.
See Darren's head's nodding also.
Yes.
yeah.
And, sorry, I don't remember, could you?
Me either.
Huh?
Me either. It's in the code of ordinance, so it's, code of ordinance is clear. It talks about pH, actually a maximum temperature too. BOD, TSS.
So do we have to put that in the resolution, how often it's done, or is it, how often it's tested, or is that already in there? 'Cause
We don't,
one and done is not sufficient, in my opinion.
I'm unaware of us ever testing our sewage for a specific facility. However, I believe it's once a quarter, we take samples of our wastewater and deliver it to Stanford, and the Stanford lab does all that for us.
Yeah, but pH is a grab sample and it has to be done within 15 minutes. I'm just,
Yeah.
I run a wastewater treatment plant. And I
You'll love our water.
And I hold a water operator license.
Yep.
So
And I appreciate that, but it sounded like a joke. The municipalities that we operate in are very stringent. In New Jersey, they're very stringent. In Pennsylvania, they've become more stringent. But the water effluent that we're putting out is cleaner than what's coming off the roads and ending up in just your stormwater system. Because of all of the systems that we're going through. You know, when you talk about 3 and 5 micron plates, most people think a 5 micron filter is something really serious. I mean, 3 microns, you look at it, you can't even see them. So those are the things we're filtering out. We clean that stuff up, that gets cleaned off, goes into a garbage can, gets thrown away. It's just stuff you really can't see until it cakes up. But yeah, so the water gets really, really clean. So the effluent coming out, we do have an oil water separator and all the other things that are required. We're meeting all the standards that are required by Stanford. We take it seriously. I mean, it's hard to argue any better than what we do because we have results that prove that we.
I was just asking him if it was there. I wasn't saying that.
Yeah, no, I understand that.
And I mean, I appreciate the microns in the effluent.
Yeah.
Because I have standards that I have parts per million, but in my total suspended solids and my effluent and my BOD and such. So I can definitely understand and appreciate what is going out. I was just, checking it.
Sure, understood.
Got a strange one. What do you do with chlorine? You leave it in the water? It's chlorinated fluoride? Or does that, the micron filter?
We don't contribute to it.
You
It
just don't care? It doesn't
Comes
bother
in the
you.
water,
No,
right?
no. But sounds like you're making drinking water better. What your process is. Spot
Our
free.
oil water is not very good to drink. It's like drinking distilled water. It's kind of
Yeah.
tasteless, but
No minerals.
But we do make it a lot cleaner. We have to.
And at the end of the day, you don't dump the tanks, correct? There isn't a sudden discharge at any point in time, it's just a continual flow as the cars come in?
Yes. So the tanks get pumped out. So the settling tanks outside will get pumped out. They don't ever get discharged to anywhere.
They get pumped out when a truck comes and pump them out, you're
Correct.
talking about.
Yep.
But I'm saying, during the course of the day, it's just a continuous, however the flow of cars would be the flow out because of the extra 50 gallons you're using of new water per car.
If it was that high, yes, the water
Or
would.
40 gallons,
Yeah.
40 gallons or 50
On
gallons.
the conservative side, yes. Yep. So,
Okay, no, I'm just trying to, when I heard recycling, my first thought was that it's just recycling, that it's a closed system.
No.
But it's obviously not that.
no, it's very difficult to do a closed system that's effective and doesn't create other issues.
I'm not saying it is, that was just my thought that you were at least recycling half, and it sounds like it's somewhere just about that.
Right, so all the water we use ends up in the recycling system. But the difference is in processing cars, you do have to bring new water in, and water does have to go out at some point. Because it's not closed, it does have to go out through the system, because we're recapturing, otherwise you'd overflow.
Yeah, no, I understand. You have a capacity in your recycling
Correct.
system, and you're adding to it with each car. You're saying 50, I'm sorry, I got 50 and 40 on my head.
40 on the conservative number would be the high number, yeah.
Okay. And of that, you're saying 5 to 6 gallons goes out the door.
There is some drag out, yes. That's been documented by the International Car Wash Association, sort of a well-known number. I think we've documented that as well. It's shown in some of the charts.
Yeah, no, I'm not, it's a whole, I'm
well,
not
this-
questioning yours, this is a whole different
No, I get it.
argument
It's
somewhere
just-
else. And
We understand there's so many questions about what we do, and that's why we just want to present as much information that we could.
and what is it, I know you say you add air, what are you trying to maintain as a BOD in your tanks?
I don't know. I don't have that number.
Sorry, that's just because
Yeah,
I know.
I don't know that.
Yeah, no, that's fine.
I'll leave that to my engineers to figure out, because I don't know.
Is there?
And there isn't, go ahead.
No, I was just looking at the clock and
Yeah.
wondering if there was any more to the presentation from anybody.
And the air that's added to combat the BOD is just it's just part of the system, it's not monitored, so you don't know if it's high or low
No.
in the system. Okay, all right.
So we're still developing this system based on what we did out in Pennsylvania. So,
I just
yeah.
have different perspectives, that's all, that's why I was asking.
Okay.
Not that you needed to, it was just a question.
Oh, it's less than 50
They
parts
pump
per
you.
million.
So it's
I didn't-
in the.
It's in the presentation, yeah. I'm sorry, I didn't memorize that number.
That's fine.
Yeah.
Less than 50. parts.
That's what's going out. I was just wondering if they were trying to maintain a number in their system.
Bob, that doesn't go in the sewer, that's their own on-site. Yeah.
I understand that, but if it gets too low, it would, in their tanks, you'd start to get odor. That's why I'm asking the question, not that it's really our concern, but just asking the question because it's my area of expertise.
Sulfur.
Yeah, so, I get it. So we do keep water moving to eliminate odor issues. That just happens. So we'd always have a cycle of water going into the tank, or excuse me, the trench, which goes back in the tanks. And we found that using the polishing system really started to quell any of those issues.
Yeah, and it sounds
We
like
don't
you're
have to
add-
drop chlorine going back to that. We don't have to do any of that stuff.
well, and you're adding enough water on a daily basis where
Yeah.
you're turning the tanks over at least once a day, if not more than that.
Yeah.
So that it really shouldn't get quote-unquote stale over the course of one day unless for some reason you have some,
Except those rainy days that Brian kept bringing up.
well, no, but during the fall, when you get leaves in there, is probably one of your worst times of year.
We,
The breakdown of leaves does create a bunch of BOD demand.
So I'll just speak to that real quick, because that's a maintenance issue we do deal with. And fortunately, in our system, we screen all that out so that it's easily cleaned out every day. We do a trench walk every day, which is where the conveyor sits, and we get all that cleaned out every day. We run a screen so it doesn't end up, we don't want any biological mess on our stuff. So we clean that out every day.
Okay.
It sounds like you thought of everything.
Well, we have maintenance checklists. in our
I'm gonna
field.
have to remind you that we're
Yeah.
running out of a little bit of
You
time
guys
issue.
want to quickly
And we
wrap
do
up?
have a
Thank
Yeah.
you.
The rate,
Thank you.
sewer rate to set.
Yeah,
too.
we're watching the
Yeah.
clock here. Jay Klein, Carmody Law for Cloud 10, just briefly. Working with Steve and his team is terrific. We learn something more about the car wash industry every time that we come to town hall with them. Something that you should know that doesn't come up in the data, Steve talked about the maintenance and the commitment to the system. Cloud 10's principals, Brendan Johnson and Jeff Augusta, are Darien residents. You may or may not know them. This is their hometown facility, their flagship facility. So there is a high priority to getting this done and getting it done right. And I think, Mr. Hutchison, as you hit on the head and as Brian reiterated, the good thing is about when we're looking at what is the focus and what is the concern of this commission, the impact on the sewer system, this is a home run use for this property. And there are those storm events that we are most concerned about. And when the rain starts falling down, Brian and Craig and other, we start texting one another about, gee, what's going to happen? What's going to happen? You're not going to be worried about 54 Boston Post Road. The cleanliness of the water is strictly regulated by DEEP, which you've had the pleasure of dealing with deep. They are, can be overly burdensome at times, but they hold us to a standard, and we will have to meet their standard. Brian mentioned the deep general industrial permit, that we will have to make annual reports to them. We'll be happy to provide Ed and Darren with those reports on an annual basis too, so that you all are just as up to speed as we are and as they are. The last thing I'd mention too, we are appearing before the P&Z Commission next Tuesday at 7 o'clock. I think with Brian's testimony, with Steve's additional information, with Lindsay, I think she's still on the line. I believe she recommended approval. Waving to Lindsay on the phone. I believe she recommended approval of this connection as well. We would appreciate it. If you feel you're able to act this evening, we would certainly appreciate that. Short of that, we are available to come to you if you can schedule a special meeting, next Tuesday at this time. But this is the right use for this site by the right team. And we're really looking forward to getting this thing up and running soon. So, thank you very much.
Okay.
Ready to close?
Yeah.
Move on.
A motion?
We need a motion to close? Well, yeah, I'd make a motion that we close this hearing.
It's not really a hearing. I think we need a motion
Yes.
that we believe that there is not going to be any
Correct.
adverse impact on the sewer capacity, sanitary sewer capacity.
Specifically because of the time of day of the most use of this application.
Okay, joint motion? That was
Yeah.
a joint motion?
Yeah, no, we'll make it, I'm sorry.
I'm sorry, you're
Go
confusing
ahead.
me. Why we need to, why we need this motion, or are we just approving? Don't we need a motion to approve or deny?
Yeah.
Right,
but
that's what I'm making it a
as-
motion to approve.
I was just
Okay.
adding the specifics of the uniqueness of this application as it pertains to the intensity of their use at certain times of the day being non-impactful for our sewer.
Well,
Capacity analysis, that's what this is.
before we do that, we have to, I think, make sure that we're all comfortable in making the vote now.
I am.
I am.
Okay?
How do you feel?
I don't know of any other information that I could think of that I would need, so yes.
Okay,
So if,
you made the motion.
I made the motion with Reese's help.
Thank you.
okay, so basically the motion,
Well, you're running the meeting, right?
yes.
Yeah, he's running the meeting, but he can't make the motion because
No,
he's
you
the chair.
made the motion.
So I made the motion, Reese added on to it, and so we have a
I'll
motion.
second.
And
So-
Peter gets a second.
so
Peter's
in-
seconding.
That's fair.
Okay, so Peter's seconding the motion.
So in essence, the motion is to approve the application.
Exactly.
That's right.
But with language that specifically calls out the uniqueness and the time of the intensity of their adding to the sewers. I think that's important for me. It's different than most.
It's not another restaurant.
Right. It's not houses. It's a car wash that won't be using water on an intense basis when it rains, which is when we have a problem.
Okay.
So noted.
So any other discussion is, I think, the next thing Craig said. Any other discussion?
Yeah.
And everything is, we're comfortable, I'm sorry, I guess I shouldn't be saying, but we're comfortable with the regs and the maintenance schedule?
Well, we can talk about that. That's
That'd be
separate.
staff.
Yeah, with staff.
Yep.
Okay. So we have a motion, do we have a second?
Yes, Peter seconded.
All those in favor?
All right.
Opposed?
Thank you, guys.
4-0.
Thanks for your time, everyone.
Thank
Good
you.
luck with finding zone.
Yeah.
Brian's got to talk with her.
I don't know. Good job with the tanks. Thought to ask that. It's cool.
Which,
The settling tanks.
6:30. All right, it is
yeah, that's my job.
I think the most important thing, Craig, just because I know you've been out for a minute,
Yeah.
is to
Set the user fee.
Set the user fee.
Yeah, so it's 6:34, we're getting kicked out at 7. The next item on the agenda is setting the sewer user fee, and then we'll see how much of the rest of the agenda we can get to before, say, 5 of 7, and then we're calling.
We're doing it.
Uh, Okay.
Right.
Okay.
Setting the sewer user fee, and I'm going to look over your shoulder because I didn't bring last week's packet.
I didn't either, that's why I
Okay.
pulled it up somewhere.
I have it somewhere. I had it before. Why did I take it from?
Did I steal it from
take
you?
it from you?
Not give it back?
Is it this one?
That's that one.
Okay. Circle here.
Okay, let's talk about where we're at. So the current Yeah. The current rate is $7.06 per 100 cubic feet. We've given ourselves enough leash to go up to $7.50 per 100 cubic feet, should we so choose to do so. And the chart I'm looking at was from last month's agenda, which is item 4, page 1 of 7. And just roughly, if we don't change the rate, we'll be $186,000 in the red. If we get at least, say, to $7.37, we'll be break even based on Ed's projections. If we go all the way to $7.50, we'll be about 70 grand in the black. So that's kind of our range. I'll ask for commissioner comment in a moment. I would say normally I am the one up here most frequently saying, let's not raise rates, let's not raise rates, you know, like, as long as we're not depleting our reserve fund. Let's be very careful about this. I am thinking differently now, just having more experience with how much it's costing to do our I&I abatement and the system maintenance and uncontrollable factors related to the city of Stamford, and the fact that our share of wastewater in the city of Stamford is still rising, although I really predict and hope and expect that it's going to start ticking down starting next year. I would be in favor of going to 750, but I'm going to open it up for commissioner comment. Bob, start with you.
Yeah, I mean, I also, on top of, even if we were to take the 600,000 out, if that in our savings, I literally could think of 4 ways to Sunday to spend it in ways that need to be done. So I don't believe that us not raising it at all is the way to go. The actual number, I'd stay just a touch lower than 750, but I could live with the 750. I'd say more like 740, just to make it
A little more measured.
Yeah, but I could live with the 750.
Peter, any thoughts?
I always like to see a little gain in the reserves, because we always get unexpected things that happen. We're getting more usage, and I mean, just the administration's got to cost more, in my opinion.
Yeah.
So I would go for more like 748 or so, something like that.
Yeah.
750.
750.
Sold.
Sold.
I'll make a motion.
Well, the reason,
I'll make a motion
The
that-
reason I'm saying that is for everything that Chris
Yeah,
said.
yeah.
Plus, we would have had money for the reserve, except that Stanford pulled that thing last year, and then it's like, well, that could happen anytime.
Yeah.
So I think we need to keep it at 750, or keep putting money into the reserve. If in fact everything does turn out that we are
Then
putting less
we
water,
can have some zero
we
rate
can-
increases in the future.
we
Yeah,
can
clamp
bring it back down.
Yeah.
Yeah, that would be
Ideal.
Ideal,
that'd be a headline, right?
I
exactly.
started out my career with a bunch of zeros,
Yeah.
so
I know.
maybe I can end my career with a bunch of zeros.
All right, so
750.
I'll make a
I said
motion.
a
that we-
bunch of zeros, that's a lot of
There's no
years.
We do have things to.
Yeah, sorry,
Okay,
go ahead.
all right.
I'll make a motion that we raise the sewer fee to $7.50 per CCF, and that the minimum amount comes up the appropriate,
291.43.
yes.
I'll second that.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor? Okay, we've set the sewer user rates.
And the one comment I will make is we also live the sewer fees. So we're
Do you want mine?
voting on a raise and of sewer fees on ourselves too, so.
Yes,
Don't
Yeah,
make it, we
all-
don't live it.
We all pay one. Okay, so item number 8 on the agenda is a further, well, let me jump around a little bit. Is there anything
Some Locust Hill.
under the superintendent's report that you really need to update us on before we get to this theoretical stuff, or less than theoretical stuff?
Nothing that's critical under the sewer rehab. I do have updates, but that's in the spirit of moving along. That's
Okay.
something I can cover.
Or you could type an email to us, too.
Lindsay was nice enough to type it. As you see, she's not here tonight. She's
Yeah.
she's filling under the
She was on the
weather,
phone.
Why don't we just?
So-
Is Locust Hill anything that you need a decision on?
I mean, why?
Locust
why don't
Hill,
we just-
No.
I don't believe we have anything.
And-
That was the
Does it-
$5,000.
Locust Hill, there's information in there, in the package
I agree
from
with Peter, which is,
people.
if you want to do a 2-minute version of the superintendent's
Yeah.
report, please go ahead.
Because the rest is going to be a lengthy discussion, no doubt.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's not. It's gonna be a heavy discussion, but I don't wanna take time away from it if it's something, but, I mean, basically, we're at 70% of just about everything other than lining, which is completed. We're having trouble getting some of the manholes, which is holding us up, because manholes first, then you start doing some of the lining that goes along with it in the manholes. You can't do one before the other. So, we should have an update, hopefully, in the next week or so on when they're gonna be getting here. That's the big ticket item that's holding us up. And we will be starting discussions on the final design with Arcadis. Usually I was waiting till I get this rate set. I had some other things doing. The personnel issue on the thing is John Bacuzzi has left us. He moved down to Kentucky. We did post his position last week, so we're looking at some possible internal candidate that has some background. So
Any
that's encouraging.
activity on Penny's position?
Not yet. We're kind of working through the details right now on which way to go with that. I'm working on the documents for that, so that may take a little time, but hopefully not too much.
All right.
She's been great. She's been helping out,
Yeah.
coming up. I got the commitment from her new department heads that at least I'll get some help making sure that the bills get out.
Oh.
After October 1st, I'm probably not going to see much of Penny. But she has been great about coming up, and Ally and Mindy from the Health Department, Human Resources, where she's working now, they've been great too about allowing us to
If
kind
you
of
need
use her.
additional input from us on the importance of this position, let us know.
I will definitely do that.
All right, so thank you for the abbreviated superintendent's report. We're going to jump back to item number 8. I made minor changes to the document that I had provided you guys last time, so if you'd like this one, I'll describe the changes.
Is that the highlighted one?
No, I did the yellow.
Oh, you did the yellow.
Oh, you did the yellow.
I made the mess.
I had a quick well, just a question you could probably answer without even,
Yeah.
is PE a state license or a federal license?
State.
Okay.
I do have one.
Oh, I didn't look at yours, I'm sorry.
One substantive change, Ed. I'd like the owner to be able to sign this affidavit. If they're comfortable, they don't have a sump pump, they shouldn't have to hire anyone.
Okay, and what's the penalty?
If they don't know, they go get an engineer,
But
or
what's-
penalty's the same penalty.
You mean if they're lying?
Look, an owner.
Yeah,
can
on the one
build-
hand, this is a really good
An owner
discussion.
can build the whole house except for the electrical connection to the street. So there's no reason an owner can't sign this, if they're knowledgeable about their house.
Did they have no sump pump, or the sump pump doesn't go in the sewer?
Either one.
Oh, I have a big problem with it, doesn't go in the sewer.
I mean, I like.
You want someone independent to be coming
No.
into this?
I have no problem with the homeowner saying they don't have a sump pump. I have a problem with the homeowner saying that doesn't go into the sewer.
If you don't know, then seeking a
So-
professional.
So on the affidavit, and then that's going to be our next thing. We're going to have to put together something that's concise, easy to handle, and quickly goes into the mail when you're done, which is, so you'll allow for self-verification if you don't have one.
Yeah,
But
I
if you
can
do
live with
have
that.
one, a professional must sign off, and we allow for a list of professionals who we believe should be able to handle that.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's the compromise. I don't believe that the homeowner should be able to,
I don't disagree with you.
that they
I
should
think
be
that's
able
a
to
good
attest that it doesn't go into the sewer.
I think that's a fair compromise. For what we're dealing with, I think we need to think a little bit more about getting really good information. Because the alternative at the end, when we find out maybe they weren't as truthful, I think we want to be a little, I do anyway, want to be a little more heavy-handed about, you misrepresented what you had in your home. And we've been dealing with it as ratepayers here in Darien through our system.
What if an owner sees it bubbling out in the yard because the grate's there, because basement systems put the sump pump in, and they have a sump pump and they see it bubbling? They should have to pay somebody.
How much would it
I hear,
cost
Well, I
hold
think-
on, wait a minute.
Craig, how much would it cost for an engineer to go in and verify?
If we were doing I don't know.
An hour?
Yeah, I mean, it would be, yeah, if you do it one.
$250.
Yeah, we're two.
So for a plumber, might be even less?
No.
200.
No.
So hold on.
Okay.
I understand where you're coming from.
I'm just saying the building code allows an owner to build the whole damn house. if
Well,
they
no,
want
but
to.
also where you're coming from is that, we're
Practical first.
Yeah, we're putting a burden on sewer users to pay, potentially, to pay a licensed individual to come in and provide this affidavit. And you're trying to find a route that sounds reasonable for an owner to do. And I think there's plenty of owners that are qualified, but I also think there's plenty of owners that aren't.
Oh, I agree completely.
And-
So if they're not, they'd have to seek professional help. That's pretty easy.
But how do you have staff discern which homeowners?
And the owner is
qualify?
ultimately responsible for the affidavit. If they're not comfortable signing it, then get a professional.
Yeah, this is true.
They're signing saying they don't have it, and they're subject to this penalty. So they should have the right to do that. It's their
But you
property.
have people who look at YouTube and fix their toilet and don't fix it right. And then we
Sometimes they
gave
fix
them, and then we gave them money off even though they didn't fix it right. So I have a problem with those same
We don't have
people
to get excited.
being
We can
able
just-
to.
we can talk
Is it possible that
about our
this
opinions
town
without
could
getting our voices up.
authorize Tony to go and look
Well, maybe
in
we
someone's
can.
basement
We're gonna try.
for a less fee
Okay.
than $250?
Well, I heard Reese, suggesting that a homeowner could do it, and then Craig threw out a number, but this is a great opportunity if Reese started a new business to go around and
No,
check all the sump
that's
pumps.
not true at all.
At like $100 a shot to
I
go in
want
the
to know if
house.
Bob's going to hire a $200 an hour plumber to come and tell you
No.
whether you have it hooked up or not.
There's,
not a P.
Susan, there's a lot of places for it.
I have a license that
I'm afraid
only
there's a lot of-
400 people
lot
in the
of
state
places
have.
go
There's a
with
lot
it.
more PE.
Oh, okay,
than
it's
that.
not just in
Yeah,
the
you got
basement,
Crawl
like,
spaces,
okay.
basements, it could be an exterior one.
Yeah, it could be
Okay.
plumbed down the yard.
I'm not a
And
plumber
we have
or.
5,400 customers, and there's
Yep.
a lot of people, a lot of places.
But I had a discussion and we would put something in there where it's an observable connection to the sewer system. If it's hidden out in the yard, you just can't go with all possibilities.
Right.
Yeah, the affidavit has to say based on an observable,
Yeah.
on the observable condition.
You're not gonna have you're not gonna get a professional that's gonna come in there and state absolutely positively that it isn't. They're gonna state that their observations are that it's not
Right.
connected to the sewer
Not
system.
going to
once
make them
we-
camera it.
No.
Okay.
So once we've done this and we've collected up all these affidavits, any future work will be notified to us by the building department, correct? Because we're going to have a link with them now, and when they do new work, they will let us know.
Yes, but also.
We have
I'm
2
asking
minutes.
staff.
This is the,
I'm
not
asking
the P&Z
staff, is
meeting
that
yet.
true?
Also, our thought was that when they sell, that the lateral has to be cambered if it hasn't been cambered within the last 10 years.
That's another whole reach, yeah, but you're right.
But it could be leaking,
Totally
terribly.
agree. Totally agree. But anyway, staying on this, I do feel that the owner is the ultimately responsible, and everyone else is a representative of the owner. And if the owner is comfortable putting their own signature here, it's no different than a contract, it's no different than anything else. They're allowed to do this on their own home. And they're taking responsibility. They're saying, I have competency and I know this to be true. Whether they watch YouTube or not, I don't know. I
I
watch
don't-
YouTube, I like it.
I don't know, I think it needs to be someone who has a professional license where they're
Do you think
licensed.
I need someone with a license?
I think you can pay
Craig?
$250 or
I would-
$100 to a plumber.
I'm in the situation where I can write my own, right? So,
So am I.
yeah,
I could,
Yeah.
I want to.
yeah.
But-
yeah.
It's ultimately the owner's responsibility. They're the ones who have a contract with us to pay us. So that however they do it, their representative themselves, watch YouTube. If they sign it and we catch them, they're responsible.
I
I
think
didn't
they
know it
could-
won't work.
I think they can sign if there's no sump pump, but if there is a sump pump, then they need somebody professional to say it's not discharging to the sanitary sewer.
Not if it squirts right out in the yard and you see it. That'd be absurd.
How many times do you think that will be?
I've seen many systems like that where they do, they bubble right out in the yard.
Well, look,
I would have trouble, I would, in the
I
same
mean,
kind of spot.
in your questionnaire, would you have,
If you feel
if you have a
uncomfortable.
sump pump check here, is it
Yeah,
discharging to the
Photos.
sewer? Check here,
unsure, seek help.
check here, it's not
Seek help.
discharging to the sewer.
If you're not sure, seek help. Call the town, they have a list of engineers and great sump pump people that can inspect it for you.
Oh,
If
but
in
I
doubt-
don't, I don't think the town should be out there inspecting.
No, they're giving them names.
Okay.
People that go inspect.
If
It's
in
no
doubt,
different than a
call.
sewer connector, digging a hole.
all right, so we have folks now gathering for the planning and zoning meeting outside, so I
That would
want
be
to
We
my,
have
wrap
10
this
minutes.
up.
that would be my only
Yeah,
tweak.
20.
Let the owners, they're signing it, they're responsible.
I hear you. I hear you. I hear you. I hear you.
I will
But what
start
I-
putting
I hear you.
together a form, says
Yeah.
affidavit on it. and-
What I like is that Ed has put this down. First, I have to get a draft affidavit so we can take a look at it. And our goal is that maybe by January, we're sending out, incrementally over the course of months, this affidavit, and we get it going. Awesome. I do think, so we'll have an opportunity at the next meeting or whenever to see the draft affidavit and comment
Send it
on
to
it.
Wayne Fox.
Yeah, et cetera. The other thing I think we ought to think about before implementation is buy-in, right? Maybe we notify the first selectman or the board of selectmen of what we're proposing to do. Because it will, I'm sure, create phone calls.
There'll be phone calls.
And there's also the reality that what seems simple when you write a page or two is a lot more complicated when you have 5,000 different permutations of it. And there may be cases where, say, disconnecting a sump pump from a sewer and discharging it to the surface may create a nuisance on someone else's property. And that, we have to be aware that that's going to be coming. And
May raise the water table.
it would be hard for us to say, you must disconnect it and you must create the nuisance on a downstream owner. That's a difficult position to be in. So I think we need to be aware of that. I think we need to have buy-in. And because of that, I think, we might want to widen the net of who we're notifying about our intentions. So not just the board of selectmen, maybe planning and zoning, maybe wetlands, to let them know this is important. We have to get as many of these disconnected as possible. We need your support to get as many of these disconnected as possible. But anyway, so I think you understand where I'm headed with all that.
Yes.
Nicely done.
Nice, Craig.
I know, nicely done.
It's a team effort.
Been percolating for a long time.
Well,
And hopefully in the next 3 months, we can find consensus.
Yeah, we're close.
So looking back at the agenda, what did we miss?
We missed the sewer connection fee.
Yeah, so anything we missed, we'll keep on the
And that was
agenda
it?
for next time.
okay.
I'll move it up to the top.
But wherever you think it's appropriate based on next month's agenda.
Therefore,
Item number 12.
Oh, Peter?
a motion that we adjourn.
Second?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.